All right, folks, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for Tuesday, March 5th, 2019, another anti-Semitic charge against Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. The Democrats have a resolution condemning her words coming, but the question is, was what she said anti-Semitic or is she being singled out because she's Muslim? We'll break that thing down with our guests on our panel. The House will also pass a voting rights bill, but Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, he says he's not even going to bring it up for a vote. And also, you've heard various Democratic candidates talk about the issue of reparations. It is not a new conversation. Well, guess what? Joining us on the show is going to be Dr. Ron Daniels, who actually chairs the National African American Reparations Council. Julianne Malveaux, our panelist, is also a member of that. And so we'll talk to Ron, who's been in this battle for more than 30, 40 years. Also, the National Association of Black Journalists, which I'm a vice president of digital, has put CNN on blast for their lack of black executives. No black executive producers, no black vice presidents, no black executive vice presidents, and CNN president Jeff Zucker has no black direct reports. And they refused to meet with us if I was in the meeting. I'll explain to you why, but I'm also going to break down to you why it matters to have black media executives, not just when it comes to content, but also when it comes to money. And more crazy-ass white folks, Alabama high school students say, we black folks belong in concentration camps. White folks in Alabama. There's video. Also, a California rich white kid makes a swastika out of red cups. And also, photos also out of Galveston, Texas. A white cop is offended by swearing and arrests a high school track star. We can see that video as well. And remember I told you yesterday about Republicans, how they're trying to put on these really young federal judges? Today, they voted to approve a 37-year-old white woman who had only tried 4 cases in her career. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, there have been two House Democrat freshmen who have been lightning rods and been under withering attack from Republicans. One, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the sister who is from the Bronx in New York, and also Congresswoman Ilhan Omar from Minnesota. She's one of 2 Muslim women serving in the United States Congress. Now, she made a comment last week that they forced her to apologize, and so here's that apology.
I want to talk about the political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country. I want to ask, why is it okay for me to talk about the influence of the NRA, of fossil fuel industries or big pharma, and not talk about a powerful lobbying group that is influencing policy?
All right, folks, that was the comment that she made that, oh my God, has caused folks to go crazy. Now, why is this perceived as anti-Semitic? Well, it feeds into the very old and very common anti-Semitic image of Jews as scheming subversives working on behalf of foreign powers, a smear commonly referred to as the dual loyalty charge. Now, Congressman Eliot Ingalls, Democrat from New York, who is the chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which she's a member of, got this ball rolling with this statement. He said that her words were, quote, unacceptable and deeply offensive to call into question the loyalty of fellow American citizens because of their political views, including support for the U.S.-Israel relationship. Her comments were outrageous and deeply hurtful, and I asked that she retract them, apologize, and commit to making her case on policy issues without resorting to attacks that have no place in the Foreign Affairs Committee or the House of Representatives. Now, Democrats in the House, led by Speaker Nancy Pelosi, plan to put a resolution on the floor as early as tonight that condemns her comments related to dual loyalty, but not by name. Now, aside from all of the white supremacy coming out of the mouths of Republicans, there are these actual examples of anti-Semitism around Jews and money coming from them. This is what House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said, quote, "We cannot allow Soros, Steyer, and Bloomberg to buy this election. Get out and vote Republican November 6th. Soros is George Soros, the billionaire who has funded many initiatives on the left. Steyer is Tom Steyer, billionaire out of California, who has been leading the impeachment, call for impeachment of Donald Trump. Bloomberg is Michael Bloomberg, who owns the Bloomberg Media Company, who also announced today he's not running for president." Now, that was House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. He says they would buy the election. McCarthy has since deleted the tweet. Here is Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio. He tweeted, "Come on, Reverend Jerry Nadler, at least pretend to be serious about fact-finding. Nadler, feeling the heat big time, jumps to Tom Steyer's conclusion using the $ for Steyer, impeaching our president before first document request. What a kangaroo court." Again, notice the $ at the beginning of Steyer's name. Nadler and Steyer are both Jewish. But here is Donald Trump, y'all, speaking during the 2016 campaign to Jewish Republicans.
I'm in a different position than the other candidates because I'm the one candidate. I don't want any of your money. I want your support, but I don't want your money. Again, I don't want your money, therefore you're probably not going to support me because stupidly you want to give money. Trump doesn't want money. I really believe the Iran deal. Look, I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. We don't build gas stations in the middle of, as you know, Afghanistan for $43 million. How many think they could have done it for less? Would you raise your hands, please? You want to renegotiate deals? Some of us renegotiate deals. I would say about 99.9. Is there anybody that doesn't renegotiate deals in this room? This room negotiates. I want to renegotiate this room. Perhaps more than any room I've ever spoken to.
This room negotiates everything. What does that sound like? What is one of the anti-Semitic tropes that we've often heard? And I'm going to use this phrase because this is what that provokes. When somebody says, "You're trying to Jew me," that is a phrase that has been used to denigrate Jewish folks for trying to lower the price, to negotiate. Play that again. Donald Trump, y'all, is speaking during the campaign to Jewish Republicans. But listen to how they responded when he made the negotiation comment. Press play.
I'm in a different position than the other candidates because I'm the one candidate. I don't want any of your money. I want your support, but I don't want your money. Again, I don't want your money, therefore you're probably not going to support me because stupidly you want to give money. Trump doesn't want money. I really believe the Iran deal. Look, I'm a negotiator like you folks. We're negotiators. We don't build gas stations in the middle of, as you know, Afghanistan for $43 million. How many think they could have done it for less? Would you raise your hands, please? You want to renegotiate deals? Some of us renegotiate deals. I would say about 99.9. Is there anybody that doesn't renegotiate deals in this room? This room negotiates. I want to renegotiate this room. Perhaps more than any room I've ever spoken to.
Now, folks, on this latest controversy, Congresswoman Omar has gotten support from her fellow freshman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She goes by AOC on Twitter. She tweeted, one of the things that is hurtful about the extent to which reprimand is sought of Ilhan is that no one seeks this level of reprimand when members make statements about Latinx and other communities. During the shutdown, a GOP member yelled, "Go back to Puerto Rico" on the floor. This is what Matthew Dowd, a conservative, well, first he called himself now an independent, no longer Republican. This is what he tweeted about AIPAC, the biggest Israel support group in the United States. Matthew Dowd with ABC. Used to work for President George W. Bush. Quote, something to keep in mind. AIPAC doesn't necessarily represent American Jews. AIPAC cheers Trump while a huge majority of Jewish Americans oppose him. AIPAC supported moving Embassy Jerusalem. American Jews opposed. Now, the reason this is critical because previously Representative Omar had tweeted in reference to AIPAC all about the Benjamins. She was also criticized for that and forced to apologize because they said that she was, again, using the old trope of Jews trying to influence American politics with their money. There were others who said, well, wait a minute. That's what AIPAC actually does. So you have this huge thing going back and forth. And so joining us right now is Jordan Wiseman Sr. He is business and economics correspondent for Slate. And, of course, our panel here, Dr. Julianne Malveaux, economist, president emerita, Bennett College, Malik Abdul, Republican communications consultant, Dr. Cleo Monago, socio-political analyst and activist as well. And so I want to start with you, Jordan.
Yeah.
So you wrote your piece today where basically you said people are really getting this thing wrong with what's going on with Ilhan Omar. Just so share, folks, your rationale for what you laid out in your Slate piece.
Well, I have sort of complicated feelings about the entire controversy, but I think as far as her specific comments go, they were a bit tone deaf. As I said in my article, there is this old trope about dual loyalty, this idea of Jews as sort of scheming subversives, and it sounds like something very old. It sounds like something that, there were examples of it in 19th century France and Weimar Germany. But actually, there was a lot of talk about that during, or a lot of concern about that during the time of the Iraq War. There was a lot of weird anti-Semitic theories about Israel kind of tricking the United States into going to a war in Iraq. So, this has sort of stocked debates about Israel over time. With that said, I have not seen evidence that Ilhan Omar has any real animus towards Jews, that she's a Jew hater, as some publications have started saying. What I see is someone who is relatively inexperienced in politics, who came to this country at age 12, speaking English as a second language, who has come up in left-wing circles where my guess is that, she wasn't necessarily, didn't have a lot of conversations about what words trigger Jews on these issues, right? There may be a lack of sensitivity, but I don't think it's intentional. I think her unwillingness to back down the second time wasn't necessarily the greatest, but it's, this is not someone who really seems to me like she's trying to do a Pat Buchanan or she's dog whistling about Israel. Seems like she's trying to do it in a good faith way where she says, I'm talking about lobbying and I'm talking about geopolitics here. I'm not trying to cast aspersions on Jews generally.
And what she also is saying here, Jonathan, excuse me, Jordan, is that she said, I am here to serve the interests of my country.
Yeah.
But you literally have had folks who have said that it's offensive to actually even question America's support for Israel. And in fact, I believe it was a Representative Vargas. Yep. I'm going to pull up his tweet on this. And so much. So this is what he said. Quote, here we go to my iPad. It is disturbing that Representative Omar continues to perpetuate hurtful anti-Semitic stereotypes that misrepresent our Jewish community. Additionally, questioning support for the U.S.-Israel relationship is unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly.
That's unacceptable?
Yeah, and this gets to kind of the second part of my argument, which is, let's say you don't know that the word allegiance is a little bit of a trigger, right? A little bit of a dog whistle. If you're just sort of observing the behavior of Israel's most committed U.S. backers in the last few years, it might seem like an appropriate word. They've really done a lot to blur the line between supporting a country and kind of having an allegiance to it. I mean, there's rhetoric like that where he says questioning our support is unacceptable, and that's someone from the Democratic Party. But then there are these more prominent examples, like in 2015 when John Boehner went around the White House's back and invited Benjamin Netanyahu to give a speech in Congress, basically trying to scuttle the whole Iran deal while the Obama administration was trying to negotiate it. You brought the leader of Israel to come in and basically embarrass the U.S. president on his home turf. More recently, there's been the controversy over the BDS movement, the boycott, divest, and sanction movement, which, as I'm sure your listeners and your viewers know, the idea is it's sort of taken from the anti-apartheid playbook. Supporters want to try and isolate Israel economically to force it to move on Palestine. Ilhan Omar is a supporter of this. There are a lot of states that have tried to essentially ban companies or individuals that participate in boycott from doing state contracting. Right, they are trying to use their state contract or government contracting dollars to chill people's ability to participate in a boycott, their free speech rights. And again, that's an example where you are placing Israel's interests over Americans' essentially constitutional rights.
But Jordan, here's the other piece. I'm sorry. And I'm comparing these two for a reason. Yes, Israel, absolutely close ally of the United States. So is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So are we somehow to say, oh, no, don't you dare question America's support for Saudi Arabia, and it's unacceptable to challenge that, when numerous people have been challenging that? When you have Khashoggi, the journalist who was killed by Saudi Arabia, but at the direction of the leader in Saudi Arabia, and you have the Trump administration all excusing it, and in fact, Trump wouldn't even issue a report to Congress when he was supposed to, and the Republicans are allowing him to get away with it. Oh yeah, they're yelling, oh, this is unacceptable. But the reality is, this notion that somehow no member of Congress can ever say anything that's remotely critical of Israel is absolutely crazy.
I think that was an example. Vargas is sort of a come as an extreme example, but yeah, you don't typically hear that rhetoric about other countries, and that's what it comes back to is, there have been these points where the way Israel gets treated in U.S. politics it's unique. Let's put it that way. And, this isn't about the way, and this isn't about Jews again. Vargas, as far as I actually don't know what Vargas's religion is. I don't, but, Israel supporters in the U.S. aren't all Jews. A lot of its most vociferous supporters are, evangelical Christians. Marco Rubio is a big supporter of Israel. He's not been bar mitzvahed. John Boehner, not bar mitzvahed. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, you're not talking about Jews trying to, the idea that, I guess in the end, it's like this has become this weird, blurry area is the bottom line. And I can't, what Omar is hitting on is that Israel gets this special treatment, and rhetorically and in the way our relationship works in general. And if she used a kind of, iffy word for it, allegiance, I think that the reaction to that is, has been a little bit overkill.
All right. Jordan Wiseman, Senior Business and Economics Correspondent for Slate. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. I want to go to our panel here. And Malik, I'm going to start with you. And again, when you look at the freshmen who are new, Republicans are really targeting Ocasio-Cortez, targeting Omar, targeting Rashida Tlaib out of Detroit as well. And so what, from your perspective, what she said, was that anti-Semitic?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can really make that call. There are Jewish people apparently who are offended by that. I don't think that in this case, this doesn't seem like a Republican thing. I think you mentioned that the chair of the committee or whatever who were pushing this, he was a Democrat.
Well, first of all, Democrats, he is, but also Republicans have also been calling for her
president
to also
but at the end of the day,
to be condemned.
Right, but at the end of the day, these are Democrats who are actually pushing this. So I get the attention on Republicans, but in this case,
No. Wait. One second. Democrats control the House.
Right.
They are putting this forth. But Republicans are also going to vote on it.
Right.
They've also been calling for it.
Right.
So it's actually Democrats and Republicans. We
Yeah,
can actually discuss both at the same time.
Well, yeah, but in this
hold on,
case,
Sudan. Go ahead.
In this case, Democrats are actually they're in charge of the House, so
Of course.
it's really on them whether or not they're going to put the resolution for. And it seems like it's something that's going to do. So I think what we should be talking about, and the question that you asked, whether or not that's anti-Semitic. I don't personally think it was, but there are a lot of things that I don't think that are offensive to me that are offensive to other people.
Got it, Julian.
First of all, it is not anti-Semitic to be opposed to the U.S. position on Israel. Let me repeat that because some people don't get that. It is not anti-Semitic to be opposed to our unwavering, blind support of Israel. Israel commits human rights violations against Palestinians repeatedly. There are so many things on the West Bank that we need to be concerned about. And the fact is that they get a disproportionate number of foreign aid dollars from us. To me, it's ridiculous. Angela Davis, Mark Lamont Hill, we can call the roll of those African-American intellectuals who've been targeted because they've done BDS, but support BDS. But more importantly here with this young woman and the freshman class, is that coincidental that these are women of color? I mean, is this a different standard that's being imposed on them? What you did at the beginning, Roland, was brilliant to show what the chucklehead had said, who lives at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, won't call his name.
The president.
The chucklehead. But also, these members of Congress who have also done this dog whistling thing connecting Jewish people to dollars. So she didn't do anything that they haven't done. In fact, what she did was much milder. And what she's doing is her job. She's saying, let's look at the relationship with Israel. How is it that this country is so sacrosanct that you can't even raise a question about our support of Israel? I'm not saying anything about, well, I will say this. I wrote my senior honors thesis, and this was 2 lifetimes ago. Some of y'all weren't born, about the relationship between Israel and the UN. This is interesting. Every UN commander who went to Israel in the 1940s after Israel was established went over there very pro-Israel. By the time they left, they had said that there was something wrong with the way that Israel approached the Palestinians. This was consistent, whether they had come from Denmark, Sweden. Basically, they went over thinking these Jewish people who have been persecuted by the Holocaust, which we are not Holocaust deniers, we know that, persecuted by the Holocaust, deserve a country. But when they saw the way Palestinians were being treated, they said, wait a minute, we got to back up here because people are not being treated fairly.
But here's the interesting. So last week, guys, if you have that poster, please show it. Last week, the West Virginia Republican Party posted this photo. Never forget, you said, I am the proof you have forgotten. They literally were trying to tie this congresswoman to the attacks on 9/11. That caused fights in West Virginia. Folks, the National Republican Party, GOP chairwoman Roland McDaniel, they have not condemned that poster. Donald Trump has not condemned that poster. Some Jewish groups have done so, but it's a perfect example of the West Virginia, and when you say it had to do with Republicans, this was a state party, Cleo, doing this, but folks are saying, condemn her, but say nothing about them.
The bottom line is Omar's comments were not anti-Semitic, and that's a defensive, biased criticism to shut anybody down who has a disagreement with Israel. It's really that simple. She did, and I really hate that she apologized, because when you apologize, it implies that you were wrong. And she is not wrong. I don't agree with Wiseman's comments about she came in when she was 12 and maybe she doesn't know what to say and how to be politically correct in the presence of Jews. No, she's told the truth. And as everyone, as Dr. Malvoisin mentioned, I mean, every time you talk about something around the Jewish state, you could say that you don't like anything and you're called anti-Semitic, and they are biased and they're strong. It reminds me of other communities. There's other communities in this country, like the LGBT community. If you even whisper something they claim is anti-homophobic, they roll out all of the guns. Sometimes they're wrong, but they're being offensive because they have power. And the bottom line is the white Jews have power.
And let's be real clear. Let's be real clear.
Jews.
Let's be real clear. We have seen a dramatic increase in this country in racial attacks. We have seen an increase in Jewish attacks. And the reality is anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, just like white supremacy, are all wrong. But it still goes back to, I go back to that representative who said that you dare not question America's relationship with Israel. When you look at, you mentioned Angela Davis, the pressure the Jewish donors placed on the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute to rescind the award to Angela Davis because she supports the campaign to boycott Israel, BDS, which is tied to the support for Palestinians. You look at CNN firing Mark Lamont Hill because of his comments at the United Nations in support of the Palestinians. But you can also talk about the reality of Jonathan Pollard, somebody who spied against the United States and Israel, wanted us, the president, to release, and he's since been released, to release him because, well, he was doing it for us. Black people also, we can be honest and have a conversation and talk about the fact that during apartheid, the state of Israel was supplying weapons to the white supremacist apartheid regime there that was being used against black South Africans.
Roland,
why can't we actually have real discussions, just like I have no problem having real discussions? I don't care how much oil they send us. I don't care if we use their land for bases or whatever in the Middle East. We can also have a real discussion about how this country, how we turn a blind eye to Saudi Arabia. This is not that hard. Cleo, Malik, Julian.
It's that hard if you're not willing to be rational. See, you're often being rational. I mean, isn't Russia considered an adversary of sorts?
Not for Mr. Trump.
But the president is building hotels and swimming around with the Russians. So, and the Republicans, the same ones who are confronting Omar, are not confronting him. So this has nothing to do with any kind of rational conclusion. It has to do with power, bias, and creating noise to embarrass or deflect the message of somebody who's not supporting Israel.
So, part of this has to do with, I compare it to as a discussion on race. So there aren't many nuances that you can have when we're discussing race. There aren't many nuances that you can have when we're discussing things like anti-Semitism. This isn't anything new. There are things that we don't understand about anti-Semitism, just like things we don't understand about sexism, homophobia, any of those isms. And I think that's part of what we're dealing with now, in addition to the power dynamic that's there. But there are things that we accept in our community. Does everybody agree that Louis Farrakhan is an anti-Semite or leads an anti-Semitic organization?
Roland, this is how irrational this
and
is.
that's but again though, but the issue
He's
here,
a critic of Israel.
But the issue here is if she chooses to be critical of Israel, the branding of an anti-Semitic doesn't matter.
And
I don't care.
Shut it down.
And want her to give up her. They want her to give up her position
on the committee
because she is.
Well, some want her to quit Congress.
And that's
but
ridiculous.
Go ahead.
This is how irrational this is. There's a Muslim woman who is a special education teacher in Texas.
Yep.
Texas has passed a law that says you cannot have a contract with the state of Texas if you support BDS.
And in fact, that was the first bill the Republican Senate took up in the new Senate to actually make that federal law.
And this is one little woman who is the only special education teacher in this small district. They will not renew her contract because she would not sign an anti-BDS declaration. So this is irrational. This is one woman who is a Muslim, has an absolute right to say she supports BDS as anybody else does. So this is anti-free speech. But it really does let you know what a grip that Israel has on American public policy in terms of foreign policy, because it's not only policy towards Israel, but it's also the extent to which Israel influences policy towards other countries like Iran.
So let's be real about this.
Real
is a white-faced phenomenon. We call them Jews, but we're talking about white Jews. Whenever you go to Israel, and I have been to Israel, there are black people over there. There are black Jews who are dealing with racism in Israel, who are being put in the desert, dealing with poor housing because of racism in Israel. And that's part of Mark Lamont Hill's critique of them in terms of their imbalance, in terms of liberty and really having justice. And what he said wasn't anti-Semitic either.
Very simple. The bottom line is this here. At some point, you're going to have a conversation, and people have to be able to space to say, wait a minute, that might be critical. But again, there are people who believe that you cannot have anything critical about Israel. And that, to me, makes no sense, because how do you actually have a dialogue or a conversation? And don't forget, folks, in 1988, after he lost the general election, it was President George H.W. Bush who held up the payments for Jewish settlements. And what did AIPAC do? They sent thousands of people to Capitol Hill to lobby against that. But that was President George H.W. Bush, Republican, ardent supporter. But they said, how dare you? He held up American taxpayer dollars that went to Israel, and folks still got upset. So this is not, again, a new subject. All right, folks, let's talk about something else in the Senate, and that is the Democrats, of course, voted on HR1, of course, which deals with the issue of automatic voter registration and a number of other issues in that particular bill, including independent redistricting commissions, super PAC restrictions, and forced release of presidential tax returns. Well, Mitch McConnell's not too happy about that, and so he has announced that he simply is not going to allow any vote on it in the Senate. But he did say, though, that he is going to allow a vote on the Green New Deal, which hasn't even passed the U.S. House.
You know, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge has been among those who's been pushing very hard to make sure we have this electoral reform. We saw how many questioned elections, the North Carolina election, now the guy who stole the absentee ballots has to pull out. And so this legislation is very necessary. But, of course, Republicans do not care about fairness. They care about winning. And that's pretty much what they've said. And so there's nothing wrong with this legislation. There's nothing anti-Republican about this legislation.
It's good legislation.
It's legislation that talks about our voting systems. If we believe in democracy, then we believe in legislation like this. So I don't. Well, Mitch McConnell is a tyrant and a bully, and here he goes again, failing to basically adhere to his constitutional rules, his constitutional responsibilities, instead say, I'm just going to block this legislation. I don't know about you people believe.
It's not that Republicans are the only people who are against this.
No,
we're talking about McConnell now. What is he?
But if we're
he's in charge of the Senate.
Sure, but you know
you do concede that.
There are people on the other side, including Democrats, who are not supportive of this.
Who?
Like the ACLU.
No, I'm sorry. No. When you say Democrats,
the ACLU.
That's the ACLU are not Democrats.
Yeah, but
no. One second.
Well,
Name me
Democrat-leaning organization.
No.
Senators.
No. First of all, they have no vote.
Okay.
Name me. No, Malik. No. Name me which Democrat. No. So, hold on, Julian. Name me which Democratic senators have opposed.
I didn't say senators. I said Democrats.
That's my point.
Senators.
So my point is the fact is it passed the House.
Right.
The ACLU is not a Democratic organization. The ACLU,
but
it doesn't. It leaves
doesn't?
the ACLU.
It leaves libertarian, frankly.
Well,
right.
Well, libertarian then. That
ain't liberal.
Okay. Well, the ACLU is actually against it. So there are parts of it that I agree with the bill. Things that dealing with early voter registration.
Malik, let's concentrate on the name.
Okay, so now we have to just focus on. We can't focus on that there are people who are actually.
No, let's focus on the person who
we have to focus on.
Let's focus on McConnell, who's in a position.
We just focused on.
No, Malik. Here's the deal. No, Malik. Here's a piece. Mitch McConnell does not want to bring this up for a vote because he knows there are Republicans who will vote for it. Because the reality is he is afraid of having Republicans vote against same-day registration, vote against change of redistricting. He knows that this bill deals with the issue of voting, and he does not want his members on the record voting against the super PAC restrictions. That's why he won't advance this bill. and you know it.
Well, I don't doubt that there are things that he disagrees about that's in
Well,
the
then let
bill.
it come to a vote, Malik.
So does the
let it come to
ACLU.
again, the ACLU, that is a specious, ridiculous.
No, that's not, though.
It
Yes,
is.
it is. It's not even a
You
footnote.
can't
It's not a
disregard,
footnote.
you can't
It's not
disregard the ACLU now.
Actually, we can.
because it doesn't benefit your argument.
Actually, we can.
Yes,
No.
because there are no senator in the ACLU.
That doesn't
you can give me
matter.
the name of 2 senators.
That doesn't matter. It's an
difference-
organization.
But there's another
It is
issue
not
at
an
the bottom.
democratic
Organization that looks at
organization.
There's
these
It's an
another
organization.
basic issue at the bottom of this is that McConnell and people like him do not want democracy.
Well,
That's the bottom line.
And they will do whatever they
Neither
can to
does the
suppress
ACLU.
No, and they will
Exactly.
do whatever they can to suppress the vote. We
Right.
saw it in
Exactly.
North Carolina.
That's the bottom
We've seen
line.
it in Texas.
ACLU,
We've seen it in Georgia. We've seen it in Florida.
All right, y'all.
You
That's the
like a
bottom line.
dog with a bone.
All right, y'all.
ACLU.
So,
wow.
so yesterday I told you about. I did a commentary, trying to walk you through exactly what Republicans are doing when it comes to the federal bench. I tried to explain to you why voting matters. So check this out, folks. This was a tweet that was sent out by Dick Durbin today. Don't go to my iPad just yet. I'm gonna sit here and try to take a photo of it, and we're gonna increase the size of this. I need you to see this, y'all, because if you don't understand what's going on here, you about to get a real education. So remember I talked about how you have these very young Republican judges who they are putting up there. Well, check this out. Senator Dick Durbin sent this tweet out today, and this is what he said. Republicans just advanced the judicial nomination of 36, but she's actually 37-year-old Allison Jones Rushing for the 4th Circuit, North Carolina. She has practiced law for just 9 years. Only tried 4 cases to verdict or judgment in her career. None as lead counsel, and isn't even a member of the North Carolina Bar.
Ooh.
Now, the full Senate has confirmed her. Now, I told you what the strategy is. I told you that in 24 years, America is going to be a nation majority people of color. Latino, Black, Asian, Native American. I told you that. By 2043, 53% of America will be people of color, 47% white. That means, and I try to walk y'all through this, she will be 61 years old when that happens. The strategy of the Republican Party
That's right.
is to put on young, clueless federal judges because these are lifetime appointments. Now, I'm going to go to our panel, but Malik, I'm going to start with you. Do you actually think somebody 9 years out of law school, somebody who's only tried 4 cases, who was never lead counsel, should have a lifetime appointment as a federal judge?
Don't forget,
No.
I'm not a member of the bar.
Oh, I personally don't, but I also don't know what standards have been used in the past. I don't know.
Malik.
It's not. It's good now because it's a story that we're talking about this 36-year-old. But is she the first 36-year-old to actually be appointed to have her actual nomination advanced? Is she the first 36-year-old? Is she the first one 9 years out of law school?
Malik,
I
I
mean-
would. If I
No,
had
I just wanna know.
If I had $100 bill in my pocket,
She's
I would
gonna be the
spit on
youngest
it,
federal
spit on my
judge.
head
What- yes, what the hell?
and say no. She probably is the most inexperienced judge. I promise you. If I
Well,
had some
I
money,
haven't looked at them and each one, so that's why my whole
Well,
point is
I will
that
tell you
I don't
what-
know the
If
qualifications
she was
of all the
99
federal
and not a
judges.
member of the bar
Yeah,
and
not a
had some
member-
little credentials,
But I've already said
there would
I
be
don't
problems.
think that she is, but I'm not the one who makes.
Hold up. Let me read this here. Rushing falls short. The American Bar Association,
there you go.
which is supposed to be
The gold standard.
gold standard.
Well, yeah.
Theoretically.
The American Bar Association has for them in terms of a standard here, and what they typically want is somebody to at least be a lawyer 12 years. That's their minimum. That's their just minimum. Okay. Really? And that, I mean, our law school 9 years. and now lifetime appointment to the federal bench.
But Roland,
Four cases. 4 cases. I mean, the point is that the way you laid it out, Roland, is exactly right.
Exactly.
What these people are trying to do, as you said, by the time the country is majority minority, the bench will be majority white. You will have the celebration of white supremacy on a daily basis.
And let me read this. Let me read this.
Liz.
Look, here, go to my iPad. While Rushing is a native of North Carolina, she has not practiced law in the state since law school, is not a member of the North Carolina Bar, and according to her firm biography, is not even admitted to practice, Cleo, in the Fourth Circuit, the court to which she's been appointed.
But even though this sounds ridiculous in the literal sense, the president is similarly qualified,
Oh boy, here we go.
as
with the
she
president.
is, to do what she's doing. And what's that
The
woman's
president
name?
was elected. Come on.
Well,
No,
the president,
well, that's questionable.
The president,
also,
the president was elected.
That's another-
That's a
that's
Hold on, no,
That's
we'll
a
answer that.
delusional tangent.
Trump was elected by the Electoral College, but he lost the popular vote, which means which means factually, more Americans actually voted against Donald Trump than voted for him. Cleo,
I
continue.
wasn't trying to start a
Cleo,
tangent, which I
continue.
tend to do, provoke people, which was not my intention. My point
He's
is
easily
that
provoked.
my point is that Trump has elected all kinds of people, and his party has elected all kinds of people who are incompetent when it comes to actually practicing what they've been elected to do, because of what Roland already said. They fit into the white supremacy, white power, white control, white sustainability of power agenda.
Ralph Northam doesn't.
and like he already said, they get somebody young and make sure that when the
But
color
you can't
changes,
do that.
You can't stay on
You think
point.
you think that Obama
No,
wasn't
Malik,
trying to
you
get
can't
young
stay on-
judges?
You can't
You
stay
don't
on
think-
point if you
That
try.
is on point.
Well, even if
you
Obama
cannot
was
stay
trying
on
to
point.
get
You
young
don't
judges.
like, you not liking the point doesn't make me not on point.
Honey, you are off point.
No, you don't like the point. That's what it is.
I don't
That's
like
the
it, but you're
distinction
also
there.
off point.
But
We're
that's-
having a
that's your
conversation about the
opinion.
court, and so you have to throw.
But then we move to
I don't
Trump.
think-
Wait, Cleo, wait, Cleo. Julian, go.
Here's the point. That man in the White House has has basically appointed people who are unqualified at every level from his cabinet. How many of them have had to be run away
Got
because
it.
either they were crooked or incompetent? Jeff Sessions, who he mocked because Jeff Sessions don't like him, but had the integrity to say, I have to recuse myself. So he gets, basically the scorn of this man.
Okay.
And
And that's a
backwards who don't
huge
know
difference.
anything.
Cleo, then Malik, and I'm going to a break.
And Malik, since you brought up Obama, and don't make any sense about how I feel about Obama when I say this, but Obama never elected or proposed anybody who was incompetent do anything.
Well,
So it didn't pass the bar. Didn't pass the bar.
I know that.
Didn't
Go ahead,
Well,
go
now
ahead,
You do
go
this.
ahead.
Grown folks who just told you.
Malik, go ahead.
I don't
true.
know
Malik,
that, and I doubt,
go ahead.
And I doubt very seriously that you know the qualifications.
Well,
of
we
every
do-
I do.
we do know that
he
Oh, yes,
never
I do. I
appointed.
watched
You
it.
know,
I watched
Malik,
it.
one second. All over talking, nobody can hear.
I watched Obama
Malik, go ahead.
This is yet another instance where, if something happens, then we put it back on Trump. We can talk about her qualifications. We say
Or lack thereof.
I
Didn't pass the bar.
I don't think that she is, but again, as I said, I'm not the one who makes those calls, and so
Remember. Let's remember
It's
Let's remember the reality is this here. That is, we know who's controlling his judicial picks.
That's right.
And it's not him.
The
It's the
Foundation.
Fairless Society, and what they want: young, far right-wing conservatives on the bench. Got to go to break. We'll be back. Roland Martin Unfiltered, just a moment. Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Okay, folks, a lot of people here, guys, hold it down. A lot of people here, of course, focused on their health, trying to get healthy in 2019. And that means any number of ways in us doing so. And so some folks about working out, some people about, of course, changing eating habits. One of the ways you can do is the Dherbs Full Body Cleanse. They have 27 different cleanses that you can actually choose from. Some of them very short, some last as long as 20 days. I did the 20-day one earlier this year, lost about 18 pounds of that cleanse. But what it also did was, of course, change your mindset in terms of how you approach food. The focus, of course, was on fresh fruits as well as vegetables, in addition to raw nuts, and drinking lots of water. And so a D-Herb cleanse is all about you, of course, feeling stronger and healthier and removing a lot of the toxic foods and the processed foods and fried foods and trying to get us, again, to eat a lot healthier. Now, if you want to participate on the full body cleanse, all you got to do is go to Dherbs.com, Dherbs.com, and you can also use the promo code Roland. The promo code Roland. You can also, of course, call 1-866-4-DHERBS, 1-866-4-DHERBS. When you go to checkout, again, use the promo code Roland, and you'll get a discount at the checkout. And so the Dherbs Full Body Cleanse, we certainly thank them for being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, and you also can check it out if you want to get yourself ready for beach season or whatever happens this summer. For me, it's about golf, and so that's what it's all about for me. So, all right, folks, again, go to dherbs.com or call 1-866-4-DHERBS. All right, so we've had presidential candidates, okay, being asked the question about the issue of reparations, and it has come up, several different candidates. Now, first of all, the idea of reparations is not new. You know, there are some people who believe that it is new, but actually it's not new. Nope. You've actually had this discussion of reparations ever since slavery ended. You remember Special Field Order 15, which never went through 40 acres and a mule. What also happened was that Congress also failed to actually approve a bill that would extend reparations in the 1800s. And so you've had this discussion taking place for quite some time. Now you have folks, because remember Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote that essay in The Atlantic where he talked about the issue of reparations, and that caused a lot of new generation people to say, hey, here's something that we need to get behind. But there have been lots of people who have been working on this. One of the folks I want to bring up right now, he is Ron Daniels. He is a member of the National African American Reparations Commission. Julianne Malveaux is on our panel. She's also a member of this particular commission as well. And so I want to start with you, Ron, first, because again, for folks who don't know, first of all, how long have you been involved in this discussion of reparations?
I've been involved in the discussion about reparations most of my adult life. I mean, I can't remember when I was not involved with it. That's probably half a century, working within COBRA, the National Coalition for Reparations for Blacks in America, and working with Congressman John Conyers forever in terms of trying to get HR 40, the Reparations Study Bill, which is now a bill to study reparations proposals, passed. For many years, I was the person who actually convened the Reparations Summit or Reparations Brain Trust for the Congressional Black Caucus for Conyers. 7, 8, 9, 10 years that I did that. So I've been on it for a long time.
So explain to people exactly what that House resolution was, because I mean, I've seen all kind of stuff on social media, and there are a lot of people who are throwing stuff out. So explain exactly what that is.
Well, HR 40 initially was simply a bill to study whether or not slavery or compensation for slavery was warranted. And if so, what might that look like? So to establish a commission, a national commission for that purpose. Congressman Conyers first introduced that bill in 1989. 1989. And it was introduced as HR 40 every year. Of course, HR 40 referring to 40 acres and a mule, the proposal that you just mentioned in relationship to the promise of 40 acres and a mule, which was never, ever delivered. However, through the National African American Reparations Commission, on which Dr. Julianne Malveaux sits, we were able to say, wait, there has been plenty of studies, and Roland, you know this, there's such a volume of information and studies coming out now, all of which show a direct linkage between slavery and the enrichment of this country, but also the wealth gap, the dispossession, the damages done to Black people in this country. So we were able to persuade Congressman Conyers to change the bill from a study bill to a remedy bill. So now it is a bill to study reparations proposals for African Americans. So it's no longer a question of saying, should we get reparations? It is now about saying, what should that look like? And as far as I'm concerned, when it looks at the presidential candidates, I think it's a very positive development, because what it shows is that the movement over time, including the work of Ta-Nehisi Coates and others, has really been strong enough that, and the movement for Black Lives and of course the work that we've been doing with NARC, has pushed these candidates to now recognize that it is a major issue on the agenda of Black America. So my view is that all of them should be supporting HR 40, because in some ways, many of them sort of seem to be not knowledgeable. They don't know. They have different formulations. Well, the best way to handle that really is for them to, in fact, push forward with HR 40.
But Julian, what's interesting is you have folks who say, no, HR 40, that's not enough. You need to push even further. When I was on Fox Business, Charles Payne said, well, Roland, how much and who benefits? I said, dude, first of all, you're going way ahead. And the reality is here. I was asked about it. I got no problem saying it. I said the reason I said I was not a part of the movement, I said because the question is, I said, where are the votes? Where are the 278 votes in the House, in the Senate to actually get it signed? What you also have, though, is that, and I interviewed them and actually supported these efforts. You look at Tulsa, in Oklahoma. You had Willie Gary. You had Charles Ogletree. You had Johnny Cochran. And so the state of Oklahoma apologized for Tulsa, but would not deal with the issue of reparations. I interviewed some of those original survivors, and they were in their 90s, and it was amazing to meet them. You talk about Rosewood. You can go through American history, the number of black towns that were literally burned down and black people not compensated. And so what do you say, Julian, being any comments to people who say, no, you can't just support the study, you got to absolutely be on record to completely support reparations?
Well, the studies, basically the HR 40 as it's constructed now, looks at a series of remedies, actually looks at things that people have proposed. And NARC has proposed a number of things. This is not about giving every black person a $50,000 check. Really, it's about rebuilding. It's about restorative justice. So it's about rebuilding our HBCUs. The UDC president, Ron Mason, said to me the other day, reparations for him would be making all of our HBCUs vital. And
hold on. I want to stop you right there. Because, again, you just said this is not about giving each person a check. When you see this conversation, there are those who see it that way. No, this is about individuals getting money directly from the government and then do whatever they want with it.
It's about communities. It's about rebuilding our community. Once upon a time, Roland, we had over 120 black-owned banks. Now we have 23.
Right.
Some of it had to do with carelessness on our part. Some of it had to do with other stuff. Some of it had to do with regulations and legislation that pushed our bankers out. How do you go from 100-some banks to 23? That's restoring our banking ability, restoring our educational ability, even restoring our health. If you look at the ways that enslavement has affected our health, I mean, we have a whole 10-point program that really talks about the various ways that restoration can take place. And it's not only about we've worked at NARC with reparations groups all over the world. So we're looking at CARICOM and what's happened in the Caribbean and in other places. And Dr. Daniels has just done yeoman's work in pulling together a bunch of thinkers and talkers to get us to really put something together. We've been all over the country, New Orleans, New York, having hearings about this. Here's my biggest disappointment, Roland. The Congressional Black Caucus, 55 people strong.
All right, 55 members.
All of them have not co-signed HR 40. Kamala and Cory Booker, if they co-signed it, they did it very recently. So when they're talking about reparations, they need to just shut their mouths.
Well, actually, I don't believe Senator Booker has done an interview on that. I know Senator Kamala Harris was asked that question in an interview with Natasha Alford with the Griot. Ron, I got to ask you what Julian just said. Do you see it as community building or individual checks? Because, again, that's a distinction that some people actually don't make.
Well, I see it as corporate and collective, though I defend the right. There's some people who still, debate and say it should be individual. The problem with that, frankly, Roland, is it's hard to trace the lineage back to individual African Americans. And that's one of the things that happens within the court system. You run into the question of standing. But even as you said before, even in Tulsa, where they found the people, you still had a situation where the compensation was not forthcoming. So
wait a minute.
So we ought to do it collectively.
But Ron,
how to rebuild health systems, how to rebuild educational systems, how do we get land? For example, the Native Americans have been granted land, even though they need more repair. At least they got reservations and sovereignty over those reservations as a part of rebuilding themselves. We don't have the same thing. So what if we had land that was granted to us so we could then build major institutions to serve black people? So it's a corporate thing, a community thing, not just an individual proposition.
So, Ron, but you said so many people can't actually trace their ancestors back. So how do you respond, though, to the folks who say, oh, no, that you have to be that you have to be a descendant, when the problem is, how do you even know you are?
Well, you don't. So you take that argument off the table, and you take that argument off the table by saying what we do know is that collectively the issue of slavery impacted Black people, even to the present, to the current state, because of the wealth gap. We do know that there were intergenerational deficits passed on because Black people did not have the same opportunities. For example, if you look at the Homestead Act, which happened at the same time that it was a proposal for HR 40, the 40 acres and a mule. We didn't get the 40 acres and a mule, but large numbers of relatively poor and working class white people, and we don't disparage that, and we don't hate them for that. They got the Homestead Act. They had opportunities to exploit that. We didn't. You can go right down the line, not only for enslavement, things like the GI Bill, where there was systematic denial of Black people rights to the GI Bill. Black farmers have gotten some compensation for the fact that the agricultural extension agents would systematically bar them from having the same rights as others. So we do know, and in that instance, they could find the particular people. But in general, what we know, Roland, is that as a community, we have suffered. We have been left behind in terms, and the wealth gap data continues to show that, even though we have more millionaires, even some quasi-billionaires now than ever before, which means that if that's the case, Black people at the bottom are really, really suffering. And there's a direct lineage and relationship to the intergenerational deficits that come from enslavement and all of the post-emancipation exclusionary policies that Ta-Nehisi Coates so brilliantly documented in his book, The Case for Reparations.
So, Ron, where can people go to what's your website for people to go look at the plan that you put together?
And the website is ibw21.org, ibw21.org. And we have assembled the most extensive online reparations resource center of anywhere in the world. And again, we appreciate this opportunity because it's important for your viewers to also know there is a National African American Reparations Commission. And of course, Dr. Julianne Malveaux sits on it.
All right, then. I certainly appreciate it, Ron Daniels. Thank you so very much. All right, folks. Today, National Association of Black Journalists dropped a statement placing CNN on a special media monitoring list, also calling for there to be a civil rights audit of the cable news network. Here we go to my iPad. This is the statement that was sent today by NABJ that says, NABJ, that a special team will perform further research and analysis of CNN's diversity, inclusion, and equity practices per the NABJ board's directive. The special team will also publicly report on identified deficiencies in hiring a diverse workforce in news decision-making capacities at CNN. NABJ is also calling for a civil rights audit that examines the company's hiring, promotion, and compensation practices involving Black employees. This is what we reported. Specifically, NABJ is concerned about the findings of preliminary research that reveals the following. CNN President Jeff Zucker has no Black direct reports. There are no Black executive producers at CNN. There are no Black vice presidents on the news side at CNN. There are no Black senior vice presidents on the news side at CNN. Now, for several months, the National Association of Black Journalists, and again, I'm Vice President Digital on the board, we have been trying to set up a meeting with CNN. We actually had a meeting set up. And then about 5 days before the meeting, CNN said, oh, no, we got some issues because Roland Martin is going to be in the meeting. They objected because they said, because of the controversy with him and Donna Brazile in the town hall in 2016, he can't be in the meeting. NABJ told CNN, you don't tell us who gets to sit on our side of the table. NABJ said, I'm a vice president. I'm on the executive leadership team of NABJ. We've met, with CBS News. We met with Susan Zirinsky, the new president, on Friday. We met with the old president, David Rhodes, last year. We have a meeting with ABC week after next. We actually sat down, y'all, with the top leadership team of Fox News, including its CEO, Suzanne Scott, including the president of Fox Business, her top leadership team. We also have meetings. We've met with NBC News and have more meetings with them. So we have met all the networks. CNN said, oh, no, because Roland Martin can't be in the meeting. But check this out. So CNN sent this statement here. I'm just going to read it. Don't go to my iPad because I'm pulling from the email. For months, we have been working with NABJ to schedule a meeting because the relationship between CNN and NABJ is very important to us. As we've told them many times, we look forward to a thoughtful discussion about how both our organizations can continue to work together. Unfortunately, the significant and reckless damage that Roland Martin did to CNN while partnering with us during a 2016 Democratic town hall has made any meeting that includes him untenable. Mr. Martin displayed an unprecedented and egregious lack of journalistic ethics and integrity by leaking questions prior to the town hall. As a result, we have told NABJ that CNN will not participate in any meeting that includes him. We have made it abundantly clear that we would be more than happy to sit down with the rest of the leadership team as soon as possible. That offer still stands. Well, here's the piece. We ain't meeting unless I'm in a room. But I want y'all to notice something. In CNN's response, they said nothing about our issues. They didn't say a word about no black executive producers. The last one was Tanisha Abernathy Bell, who left in 2014. They didn't talk about anything about no black vice presidents. The last was Geraldine Moriba, who was VP Diversity, who left. Darius Walker was VP, left, and he was promoted to VP in 2013, was laid off in 2014. They didn't say jack about no black direct reports. In fact, it was Soledad O'Brien who called out CNN in August of 2018 by saying, how y'all gonna question lack of diversity at the White House, but your senior staff? Mediaite.com has that particular story. So they don't address any of that in their statement. The reality is this. Now, some of y'all might be saying, well, I don't quite understand why you make a big deal of it. But this is what the issue is. By having no African Americans in the executive ranks, that means that when the decisions are made who to hire, we're not in a room. When the decisions are made where to place resources, we're not at the table. When the decisions are made, what are we going to cover? We're not as a part of the conversation. But you just heard a conversation about lack of black wealth. So let me walk y'all through. If you on the on-air side, meaning the off-air side, that means that if you only can have jobs here, and you can never have jobs that are all through here, that means that your salary is being capped. That means that you don't get the high six-figure and seven-figure jobs. That means that you don't get bonuses. That means you don't get stock options. See, that's the difference why black media execs matter. Because not only that, we're able to have P&L, profit and loss responsibility. So I was reading a story today, and the folks at TV Newser, a television blog, did a story saying that on our press release, y'all gonna love this one. And in the press release, AJ Katz, he wrote the story, and he said, he wrote the story on NABJ. Then he said, what NABJ left out, y'all gonna love this one. He said, what NABJ left out was the hiring of Don Lemon as a primetime host. The longtime CNN newser praised Jeff Zucker, the president of CNN, last month in an interview. Y'all, we didn't leave out Don Lemon because we didn't know Don Lemon didn't exist. We weren't talking about Don Lemon. We are talking about black executives. See, what y'all got to understand is they have no problem as long as we are media sharecroppers. Follow me here. As long as we're talent, it's fine. Anchors, reporters, contributors, that's all good. But when you start asking, what are high-paying jobs? What are the executive jobs? Then it's a whole different conversation. So AJ Katz, we didn't leave out Don Lemon because we don't know, as if Don Lemon don't exist. Oh, we know that. But we are very specific in what we're asking for because, see, this is what often happens in basketball. Play on the court, but you can't own the team. Play on the court, Or like in baseball, you play on the field, but you can't be a manager. See, this is about us having those positions. Now, there's some black people who tweeted me today, why y'all begging these white folks for jobs? So we somehow not to demand access to jobs that we are qualified for? Are we somehow supposed to say that, no, we're just going to sit aside? No. And there's some people who tweeted me, they said, well, why aren't y'all advocating for people of color? Let me help y'all out. We are the National Association of Black Journalists, which means that we are advocating on behalf of black journalists. There are folks who are VPs at CNN who are Latino. There are folks who have other jobs, and that's great. But we are advocating on behalf of our people. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what the NAACP does. That's what the Urban League does. That's what Rainbow Push has done. That's what the National Action Network has done. But I need y'all to understand, see, this thing gets even bigger. Because, see, when you now go beyond just the network, now it's, do you get a shot if another network calls? See, let me just unpack this thing. When I had my TV One show, News One Now, it was difficult, hard, impossible to get black journalists who were associate producers or senior producers working at networks to apply to be the executive producer of my show. When I got NABJ's Journalist of the Year in 2013, this is what I told them. Some of y'all are enamored with the big letters on your business card, but y'all got small jobs. I prefer a big responsibility over a big network. I said, don't you know that once you're in the executive producer club, that's how you get called to be an executive producer over here? So what am I saying? Well, if there are no black direct reports to CNN President Jeff Zucker, and there are no black senior vice presidents, and there are no black executive vice presidents, well, when there's an opening at CBS and NBC, or at ABC, or at Fox News, or at MSNBC, or at Bloomberg, or CNBC, or any of the networks, who you think is going to get called? Won't be anybody black there. Y'all, this is about us in 2019 saying this is unacceptable. But let me help y'all out, because maybe y'all don't want to listen to me. 2007, CNN's anchor emeritus, Bernard Shaw, was given the NABJ Lifetime Achievement Award. And he was given this award in 2007 at our convention in Las Vegas. I want y'all to hear what Bernard Shaw said to NABJ 12 years ago.
Beyond this ballroom tonight, white males, wake up. Wake up. Globally, you are an island speck in an ocean of color. The reins of power will weaken, and so will your grip, if you do not faithfully and fulsomely support our nation's greatest strength, diversity. If you do not share, you will lose. Diversity. Diversity is not racial, ethnic, or gender encroachment. Diversity is our national survival. To you caught in the middle, stay vigilant. You must stay strong. You must carry on. If not you, who? To you, starting careers, embrace risk. Mold change, making it work for you. Better to walk the plank of change than regret steps not taken. Work hard.
That was Bernard Shaw, y'all. Now, let me just lay some out to you. I said that I had communicated with several black people in 2016 because I wanted, and I talked to Greg Carr, Howard University, Eddie Glaude at Princeton, Donna Brazile, and some Black Lives Matter activists on black questions for our town hall. It wasn't a debate, it was a town hall. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, CNN TV1. Donna was one of the folks we were working on questions. Roland didn't leak a question. These are black people who I was communicating with. Donna Brazile sent the question to someone in the Hillary Clinton camp, not at my behest. She was wrong for that. She admitted she was wrong for that and that she should not have done it. So those are facts. Those are facts. So Jeff Zucker, he's upset, he's mad. I got you. But let me be real clear. This ain't about Roland and CNN. This is about whether or not this news network that generated $1.2 billion in profit, that has black folks who are watching it, has an open workplace where black folks feel that they have a sure shot at being able to be promoted in the network. And I said somebody, and let me be real clear with y'all, I spent 6 years at CNN, 2007, 2013, it'll be 6 years since I've been gone next month. And while I was there, I was fighting for black folks to get hired. While I was there, I was fighting for black folks to be hired in executive positions. While I was there, I was fighting for black people to be hired on air and off air. And so my entire career has been about focus on African Americans being able to get shots in media. I've supported black media and black ownership, but also us having a job in mainstream. But what will not happen is someone tells a black organization who you can and cannot have at the table. Because the reality is this ain't about me and 2016 and Donna and what she did. This is about whether or not you have a workplace and executives who have the willingness to do what Bernard Shaw said, and that is recognize that America ain't the nation it used to be. And there's no reason in the world that CNN has fewer black executives in 2019 than when Jeff Zucker got hired in 2012. That is what they should be offended by. That is what they should be concerned about. And what they should be saying is, NABJ, how can y'all help us fix this? But if you want to make it about me, go on right ahead. But we are not going to back down and not fight for black journalists. I'm going to go to my panel real quick here. This is about economic opportunities, Julianne.
Nothing but. And Roland, you know, this is the height of white supremacy. For white folks to tell black folks, we're not going to meet with you unless you meet on our terms. You're an officer of NABJ. You know, you have a right to be in the room.
Officer, 3-time board member, life member.
Okay. Sorry to sell you short, but I know
it's all good. It's all right.
But you know, but basically, NABJ advocating for black journalists has a right to determine who's going to be in that room. White supremacy suggests that white voices are the only voices that are important, and that they dictate the terms and conditions of conversation. And you're absolutely right. Who gets the stock options? Who gets the multi-week vacations? Who gets the employment flexibility? The people who are higher up the totem pole. So, yeah, there are lots of black contributors at CNN. We know what contributors make. They're on contract per appearance. They make no decisions. They don't even make a decision on when they show up. They call them when they want them. Mm-hmm. In terms of the executives, those are the people who are making the decisions that need to be made. And so I applaud NABJ, and I applaud you. And stand your ground, man. Stand your ground.
Gotcha. And again, what I want, and Malik, for people to understand, and I want people to understand, see, I ain't got no problem being transparent. I ain't got no problem saying what happened and what went down. I have no problem with that. But my deal is, CNN, you're not going to deflect the issue, no black executives. Not a primetime host, not somebody on the weekend, not somebody who's a contributor, but where are the black executives? Because see, the black executives, when they in the room, it's also, why are we paying so-and-so that? Why aren't they getting paid like so-and-so? See, power is when you at the table. Shirley Chisholm said, if you ain't see the table, pull a chair. Hell, you can't even pull a chair up because you don't even have people who are in a pipeline to even be able to walk past the room.
Yeah, and so this is one of those instances where blacks just in general, you know, there needs to be more coming together around issues like this. We should always be challenging all of the networks, and especially CNN, to increase their diversity, but we don't do that enough. You know, don't just allow, whether it's Fox or CNN or any of these networks, don't just allow them to play to our sensitivities or our fears or, you know, any of our isms that we may have. Challenge them on things just like what we're talking about, what you're doing. You know, don't do it in the fact that they, now I will disagree a bit. I don't know if that has a lot to do with white supremacy, the fact that they decided that they didn't want to have you at the table, as it is just that sort of power structure that whether it's the same that exists in Fox or probably any other place of business. I don't think it's necessarily about white supremacy.
Someone said, and I forgot who it was, that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And black folks are always on the menu to dice and slice and manipulate. My concern here, Roland, first of all, congratulations for taking this effort, because I've said a long time ago that the final frontier for black people is to have some control over the media, because black people watch the media disproportionately, and it has a huge impact and often a negative impact on our self-concept. But I want us to watch out for tokenism, because white supremacy is very slick and likes to stack the deck and do deceptive things and make itself look like it's doing the right thing. We got to make sure that when they do feel forced to hire somebody black, that it's not a token. That it's not a black person who has no relationship to black people and black community at all, or even a black partner.
Oh, absolutely.
Even a black partner at home. Because frankly, most of the people who have a primetime anything that are black on that network don't have a black partner at home. Just like Channing Duggan at ABC don't have a black partner at home. And
well, first of all, she no longer at ABC.
Okay.
And so when they got sold, when Fox sold their entertainment assets to ABC Disney, she actually left. She's now actually at Netflix. But go ahead.
Okay, but the point is, she was there, and everybody said, "Oh, a black person's there," and there's a consistency of getting black tokens in who do not have black cultural engagement or black personal, even in their own lives, black community at home, but they appeal to white people and they keep white supremacy going in blackface.
Well,
granted,
she's entertainment, not news.
Blackface.
Well, and again, the reality is, our position is we're not interested in one person.
Right.
There are multiple jobs there.
But whites are hiring.
No. I understand that. But
based on their value.
I understand that. And the point that we're making is we are going to use this as an inflection point to push it and to make those changes. And again, so everybody, I need y'all to understand, Fox, let me help y'all out. I've been highly critical of Fox News. They used to keep a file on me when Roger Ailes was there. Yeah, I was actually told by a sister there. They got a whole thick file on you. Every comment and tweet I made. Fox News sat down with us and met with us. I was at the table. I'm gonna show y'all the photo tomorrow.
But Fox.
No. But I'm purposely making this point because I need people to understand. Fox News met with us. CBS met with us. NBC News met with us. We're meeting with ABC. They're saying, "No, we'll meet, but he can't be at the table." That's not gonna happen. Final comment, and I'm going to end this with a quote from A. Philip Randolph real quick.
Fox is not playing games. They're straight up.
No, we got it.
CNN plays games and gives the appearance by hiring all these tokens who have these part-time jobs to give the appearance of multiculturalism and inclusion, and there's really white supremacy and passive blackface. Fox doesn't do that. So they'll have you on, as opposed to CNN, who's playing race games.
Well, actually, Fox won't have me on. I did Charles Payne, so that's Fox Business. But Fox News, y'all can call me too.
Well,
I ain't scared of y'all. Julian, then Malik, close it out.
Donna Brazil's name has been invoked here. Donna made a mistake. Donna has paid a higher price for the mistakes she made than many of these mainstream white anchors have paid for the mistakes they've made. Farrar, what's his name?
Faraz
P.S.
Zakaria. Fareed Zakaria.
plagiarism, and he back on the air. You know, so I'm not co-signing what Donna did, but let's be clear that, you know, black folks pay a higher price for these minor mistakes that they make.
It's an issue that affects whether you're Democrat or Republican.
True.
NABJ should continue pushing it. I support you all in what you're doing.
So here's a quote I'm going to end this with. And this quote is directly for Jeff Zucker. It's for the folks at CNN. For anybody out there who's wondering why we do what we do. The great labor leader, A. Philip Randolph, said this. Here, you can go to my iPad. At the banquet table of nature, there are no reserved seats. You get what you can take, and you keep what you can hold. If you can't take anything, you won't get anything. And if you can't hold anything, you won't keep anything. And you can't take anything without organization. Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without a demand, never has and never will. And that's precisely why the National Association of Black Journalists, founded by folks like Chuck Stone, like Vernon Jarrett, like Max Robinson, like Maureen Bunyan,
Dorothy Gilliam,
they founded this precisely because we were here to fight for black journalists. And CNN, y'all can refuse to meet with me, but you have new bosses now at AT&T. We'll be happy to meet with them. Folks, you can support RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, the show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, joining our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give to us goes to support what we do here every single day. So please, you can do it by Cash App, PayPal, or you can also take advantage of Square. Also, look, if you missed the show, let's say you want to hear it on the go, download our podcast. Go to SoundCloud, Spotify. You can also go to iTunes as well. Every show that we do, not just on YouTube, Periscope, Facebook, but we also have an audio podcast of all of our shows. And so definitely download our podcast for you to have the show on the go and spread the word as well. Malik, Julian, Cleo, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Folks, I got to go. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Black time.
And guess what? We're going to still be black. Out.
black.